It is said that coders of today are magicians of tomorrow. And what better coding language to learn than Python? As it has a variety of applications and it's super intuitive and easy to learn. So what are we waiting for? Let's jump right into learning Python from our expert.
Hi, and welcome to this course on Python basics. This introduction to Python will kickstart your learning of Python for data science, as well as programming in general. This beginner-friendly course on Python will take you from beginner level to programming in Python in matter of hours. Upon its completion, you will be able to write your own Python scripts using Jupyter notebooks. Python was built by Guido van Rossum. It was started as a hobby project, but soon it became a general-purpose programming language. Nowadays, one can use Python to build practically any piece of software. Why is it so? Well, first of all, Python is an open source. That is, it's free to use. Secondly, it's very easy to build packages in Python. And it's very easy to share your code with people. Over time, more and more packages have been evolved. Suppose you want to build a fancy visualization for your company's sales, there is a package for it. Or if you want to connect to a database, there is a package for that too. In addition to all these, Python is an interpreter-based language, which means most of its implementations execute instructions directly without previously compiling a program into machine language. The interpreter executes the program directly, translating each statement into a sequence of one or more subroutines, already compiled into machine code. Of course, that's an added advantage. Python supports multiple programming paradigms such as procedural, object-oriented, and functional programming. Python has a vast range of applications in fields of web development, data analysis, console-based applications, etc. Currently, there are two common versions of Python, version 2.7 and 3.5 and later. Apart from some syntactical differences, they are pretty similar. As support for version 2.7 would fade over time, our course supports version 3. To install Python 3 at your own system, follow the steps in the shared document. You can also go through the documentation on Jupyter Notebook. Variables in Python are like containers to hold data. Data is stored in a memory location. They are like references to the memory locations holding the data. Let's try to create some examples using Jupyter Notebook. A variable is identified by an identifier. Variable identifiers generally start with small case. Using an assignment operator, we assign a value to the variable. In this case, Mike. It's a string object enclosed in double quotes. A variable can be printed using print statement. And we get the value of the variable. Now what if we want to replace this value with a user-defined value? We can do so using an input function. This function takes a value from the user through console. In input function, you can even specify your prompt in the string format. Let's try to execute this code. The input function is now waiting for our input. Here we'll enter the value, say Jane. It's printing a welcome message along with the value for the variable name. A type is how Python represents different types of data. Look at the table shown on your screen. They can be integers like 10, real numbers like 10.532. They can even be words or text elements. Integers, real numbers, and words can be expressed as different data types. We can see the actual data type in Python by using the type command. We can have int, which stands for an integer. Float stands for real numbers. The type string is a sequence of characters. Here are some examples on integers. Integers can be negative or positive with a large but finite range of numbers. Floats are real numbers. They include integers but also numbers in between the integers. Consider the numbers between 0 and 1. We can select numbers in between them. These numbers are floats. Similarly, consider the numbers between 0.5 and 0.6. We can select numbers in between them too. They are floats as well. Strings are a set of characters enclosed in single or double quotes. It can contain combination of letters, digits, symbols, and even blank spaces. We will learn more about strings in upcoming videos. Let's see another common data type in Python, a boolean. It can take either two values, a true or a false. Be careful, the first character, that is T and F, should be capital. Using the type command on a boolean value, we obtain the term bool. You can change the type of the expression in Python. This is called typecasting. You can convert an int to a float. For example, you can cast the integer 2 to a float and you will get 2.0. When you are casting a float to an integer, you must be careful. Let's say if you are casting a float 1.1 to int, you will get 1. Here you will lose some information. If a string contains an integer value, you can convert it to int. If we convert a string that contains a non-integer value, we get an error. Converting an int or a float to a string is very easy. Just pass your object to string function, that is the str function, and you get its string representation. When we cast a boolean true to an integer or float, we get a 1. If we cast a boolean false to an integer or float, we get 0. If you cast 1 to a boolean, you get a true. Similarly, if you cast 0 to a boolean, you get a false. Let's try to create some variables, assign them values, examine their types, and cast them into another type. Here are some examples of integers, floats, strings, and booleans. By passing these objects to type function, we get their type. Let's say we have an integer value 1 stored in a variable a. We can typecast it to a boolean, to a float, to a string.
Wow, those were some very useful concepts. But any learning is incomplete without practicing. So you go and practice what you have learned today. Make sure you subscribe to upGrad. And I will see you next time with the second part of this video with more concepts.